Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to have you guys. I'm Sarah, and this is Lori, and we are owners of Clearmind Graphics. And we've been providing you with visual marketing for almost 12 years now, which is a huge incentive for us to be fully vested in you as our customers and the evolution of your marketing needs. And so that's really inspired us to grow towards being a fuller service agency. And so today in this webinar, we're really going to talk about that, how we're going to scope up our services and what we can offer you and your business. And we've partnered with Extrapy due to their years of experience with SEM, search engine marketing, and they have an exclusive and unique relationship with Google. So today we're going to have Google on to actually talk to you directly about how you can grow your business within the search industry. And we're just so fortunate to have somebody from Google actually be with us and supporting us through this process. Here's Jim from Extrapy. He'll be introducing his team and taking us to the next step.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Lori. It's a pleasure being here today. We're super excited to present the material that we have. We have a member from Google here with us, and we're going to be sharing a lot of great insights, and hopefully everyone will have a great takeaway or two at the end of this session. So I appreciate that. Our agenda today, so we'll walk through some quick introductions. I'll introduce everyone here that's on the webinar. Eric Geibel from Google is going to talk about how to reach your customers online. I'm going to walk you through kind of some paid search fundamentals for those who are not familiar with AdWords or what they're now calling Google Ads. And then we're going to talk about opportunities outside of paid search that fall under Google's advertising platform. And then a little bit about Extrapy and our partnership with Google. And then talk about next steps, and then a Q&A section. So if you guys have any questions, there's a Q&A button on your screen somewhere. Click on that button and send over your questions. To make some quick introductions, my name is Jim Hammerall. I'm the CEO of Extrapy Search Marketing. We're a paid search agency here in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I also have with us Patty Miner, who's Extrapy's COO. She'll be handling kind of the logistics of today's webinar. And I also am pleased to announce that we have Eric Geibel, who is with Google, and he's part of the new client education team, part of our Extrapy internal team that we have dedicated to us over at Google, and he's going to be on the webinar today as well. So with that, I want to give you a brief introduction about who Extrapy Search Marketing is. We are a 15-year-old digital marketing agency. We got started in 2004 doing everything from search engine optimization and paid search and email marketing, etc. And over the years, we've really just refined and honed our skills down to paid search. And so everything that falls underneath the Google Ads umbrella is in our wheelhouse, and that's what we specialize in. We run campaigns for our clients that do customer acquisition, lead generation, branding and awareness. We have millions of dollars under our management in ad spend each year. And we are proud to be a Google Premier Partner, which puts us at the top certain percentile of Google partners worldwide. And that gives us access to a dedicated team over at Google that we have access to. One of those team members is Eric. He's with us today. Thanks so much, Eric. And I will pass it over to you on how to go over how to reach your customers online using Google.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, before I go ahead and get started, I just want to say thank you to Sarah and Lori and Jim for asking me to participate on today's webinar. Really excited to be educating some of CMG's existing clients, as well as friends of CMG, about the opportunities that's available to them on Google, as well as digital marketing in general. My goal here at Google is to work with as many companies as possible that have questions about what it's like to advertise on Google, and provide education as to why it's really important that your businesses be advertising on Google. So if you have any questions, feel free to chime in the Q&A, as well as Sarah, Lori, and Jim all have my contact info. So just wanted to kind of start with that quick PSA. But I'll dive into now how to reach your customers online. So the reason in which reaching customers online is important is, I promise that is not me waking up in the morning, although the stock actor that's in the Google slide deck looks very, very similar to me. The reason in which reaching your customers online is very important today is everyone's day and everyone's journey starts with an online touch point. I'm sure most of you woke up with an alarm on your cell phone, right? That's much different than what we experienced 10, 15, even 5 years ago, right? So what Google believes is that connectivity has changed everything. So on this slide are examples of all products that Google supports that provide actual information about a potential customer for your business, right? So you might understand like, okay, like how could a Nest provide information about a potential customer, or how could a smart speaker provide information about a potential customer, or how could a VR provide any sort of insight about a potential customer for it? The fact of the matter is there's one commonality. So all of these devices are actually managed and utilized by being logged into a Google account. With that being said, what that allows us to do is by being logged into a Google account, we understand what a user is searching for, what a user is watching, what a user is engaged with, and we could leverage those insights back to our marketing clients and utilize the insights about the customers that utilize Google's products in order to more efficiently serve ads and more efficiently reach the right users at the right point in time across the right device. So one of the benefits of advertising on a platform as large as Google is we have the ability to reach users whether they're searching, whether they're watching, whether they're reading emails, tons of different ways for you as a business to connect with your potential customer. And because of the increase in connectivity and the number of touch points that consumers have, it's super important for your business to be thinking about your online and your digital strategy. So ultimately, when thinking through any sort of digital strategy, my advice to anyone that's considering advertising with Google for the first time, or anyone that maybe hasn't advertised with Google for an extended period of time, or even someone who's rethinking how they're shaping their existing ads with Google, is the first thing is you need to focus on the user in terms of what you're trying to solve. So as a business owner, ask yourself the question of, if you put yourself in the shoes of your own customer and think, what sort of answers do I want to provide on my website? What sort of information do my ads want to provide? And what sort of resources as a business would be useful for my consumer to find out online? And then what this leads to is you're focusing on the user, and then everything as far as the rest of your digital and the rest of your online strategy will come into place once you have a clear understanding of what your goals are on the marketing and advertising standpoint. Awesome. So now I want to do a little like education from a customer perspective and share with you 3 key insights that Google has and knows about today's customer. The first one is today's customer is much more curious now than ever. So over the past 2 years, I wanted to provide you with some information, and some of this for business owners or for marketers, this may shock you. So searches on Google for anything that had best in it grew over 80% on mobile. How does that impact you, right? Maybe you're a owner of a local restaurant, right? Maybe you have what you would consider to be the best meatballs in a specific city or a specific location. What users want to know is users want to know at any given point in time on their mobile device where they could find best potential foods, best potential ingredients. If you utilize Google and you bid on the keywords that are best meatballs in a specific area, and that user is in that specific area, that's a way in which you're focusing on the user and going to drive effective traffic to your website for someone who's interested in learning in your video. Interested in learning about your business. The next piece is what we've noticed on Google is we own YouTube. So we have information and data around YouTube. Videos with review in the title over the last 2 years had 50,000 years of watch time on mobile alone. Think of how powerful that is. Think of yourself as a business owner. What sort of video content are you putting out? What sort of presence do you have from a YouTube channel perspective? Are you making it easy for people to gain and learn more information about your business? And are you utilizing video as a means to do that? Additionally, to further talk more about the importance of video, is videos that are centered around a topic of how does something work. Those grew more than 1,100% on Google over the last 2 years. So people are turning to Google because of the proliferation of smartphones. They're turning to YouTube as a platform to find out how to accomplish a specific task, how to find something. If you're a brand that has a product or a service that helps people accomplish something, you're going to want to run an ad ahead of that video. Say, for example, and I'll use an example myself. I am fortunately a recent homeowner, but I consider myself to be probably one of the least handy people in the world. However, I've taken it upon myself recently to become more handy. What is the one way in which I learned how to do chores and housework? It's on YouTube. So I'll go to YouTube and whatever task I'm trying to accomplish, and the most recent task I was trying to accomplish was how to properly replace an outdoor sconce. So I immediately went on YouTube, learned how to turn off the power of my generator, learned how to effectively disconnect the existing sconce. But then I ran into a little bit of trouble in trying to get things straightened out and get things exactly lined up to the specifications I want. So of course, what did I do? I called an electrician. However, if you're an electrician and you were a business that had run a YouTube ad ahead of my initial video, ahead of the initial video that I had watched, utilizing a TrueView ad, I probably would have contacted you. However, what I ended up doing is I ended up searching on my mobile device for best electrician San Mateo, California, and I was presented with multiple different relevant results. And the relevant result that I clicked on was the one that provided the most information in its ad about user experience, reviews, phone number linked to it, site links that talk about the projects and the jobs that they've done. So having that information available at the palm of my hands makes it easier for me as a consumer to decide what companies I want to interact with. The final piece that's important to think about is users visit 2 to 4 websites before what we call converting on Google, which is essentially taking an action. So buying, calling, whatever you want to consider a conversionable event, we can work with you to help define that. And that's why one of the benefits of working with a really, really good agency partner is we educate you on what conversionable events should look like online. But people are constantly looking around trying to figure out what's best. So Google and all of our different properties allow you to show up, whether it be through a search ad, whether it be on the Google Display Network with a banner ad, which I'm sure you guys get followed around the internet with a lot, or with a YouTube video, or even an ad within your personal Gmail inbox. So lots of different options there. Wanted just to kind of highlight what's going on in the space as far as customers being much more curious. In addition to being more curious, and I'm sure all of you are the same way, you're much more demanding. Like, think of now how much information you have available at your fingertips, even versus when the internet first came out. So I remember 1998, AOL, the little guy running across the screen. It took at least 2 minutes just to log on and get information on the internet, and then a page like 30 seconds to load. I'll talk a little bit about mobile site speed loading time later on in today's presentation, but now simply on your phone or on your laptop, you have access to information almost immediately. Gone are the days in which you needed to use yellow pages, or heaven forbid you had to go to mapquest.com to print out directions, had to listen to your mom and dad or you and your significant other bicker over directions in terms of which way to turn with the maps pulled up, right? What we want to do is we want to be able to be more demanding and get information. So now instead of even having to type in an address on Google Maps, I can simply type the name of a business and I'm going to be immediately directed towards it. So I'll highlight kind of some of the ways in which we as consumers are more demanding today. So starting in early 2017, search volume for local searches without near me have actually outgrown comparable searches that included for near me. Why does this matter? So you're probably saying like, Eric, that makes no sense. Like if you were just talking about like best meatballs in a certain area, and now you're saying that searches for near me are actually decreasing. The reason behind this is Google's technology actually understands where you're located. And so the ads that are most relevant will immediately pop up and be showcased for you based upon your location and where you're located. So bidding on keywords such as near me aren't necessary if you're working with the right agency that has Google search partners enabled through your Google My Business listing so that you can leverage the existing free services that Google has from a Google My Business listing perspective and make it that much more effective by combining it with the actual ads that you could potentially be running on Google search. The reason behind this is 63% of people, I'm definitely one of those people, I would think it would be 100% of people today, expect brands to provide personalized experiences based on past interactions. So what that means is if I'm located in, say, Blackfoot, Idaho, I want to have ads for Blackfoot, Idaho. If I'm located in Saratoga, California, I want to have ads for Saratoga, California. Users today expect to have a relevant experience based upon interactions with your business. Later on today, we'll talk about remarketing. And an example of this is if you're a CMG client and someone visits your website and they look at, and you offer multiple different services, right? You want to be remarketed back to with creative that talks about the service you actually looked at on the website. So this is an opportunity for your business to think through not just, okay, what sort of strategy am I doing on a Google perspective from an advertising perspective, but what sort of messaging am I conveying to my consumers as a result of engaging with a brand previously? The final piece, and this is, if you walk away from one thing of today's webinar, it's customers today are very, very impatient. And I'll dive a little bit more into what I mean by that. So over the past 2 years, and this is just travel related searches, for tonight and today have grown 150% on mobile. So because of the fact that we have more curious and more demanding customers, right, we have access to learn more at the tip of our fingers. And so with the increased expectations due to the proliferation of smartphones, the increase in digital connectivity, we expect to be able to accomplish things much faster and much more seamlessly. So mobile search times for wait times grew over 120% over the last 2 years, right? So people don't want to wait. And this is just a consumer behavior standpoint of things that we've seen. So it's really important when you think about your website as a business owner. What steps can you cut down on in order to effectively get your consumer to take the action that you want as quickly as possible? And what sort of advertising messages can you leverage and can you serve so that when they come to your site, their mind is essentially already made up? So if you think through this triangle, Google believes that the newly empowered customer is more curious, more demanding, and more impatient. Okay, Eric, all this information is great. How do we take advantage of it? So I'll give you kind of the 3 key principles of how Google views the age of assistance. The first is be there. The second is be valuable. And the final one is be quick. And I'll dive briefly into each one of these topics. So being there, so connect with the right people during the key moments of intent. So here you see a gentleman who's probably waiting for a subway or waiting for a bus, right? He might be searching for something on his mobile device. Maybe he's searching for where he wants to get lunch later on today. Maybe he's searching for a pair of shoes that he wants to buy, right? If you're searching for something, so the number one key if you're getting started advertising with Google is if someone searches for your brand, 1, you want to make sure that you're there and that you have a message. 2, if someone's searching for your product category, you want to ensure that you show up for the most relevant users in the relevant searches. We have some things that are super detailed, such as search audiences. Jim and his team is very well versed in that. But essentially what you could think through and at a high level is for the things that are most profitable for your business, we could bid more or less aggressively to ensure that you're there. So when working with an agency, it's really important to convey what product categories or what specific elements of your business are most important to capture online and what's most important for you in terms of being there. Obviously, not everyone has an unlimited marketing budget, and there are costs associated with running Google Ads. So you want to work with someone who's going to help you be there for the most relevant and most useful searches that are actually occurring. So as the slide states, customers constantly explore the expanding digital landscape, reach them across many touch points. So I talked about search, but in addition to search, Google has the display network, which basically is composed of 95% of all publishers in the United States, Google has relationships with. So based upon a specific user, we can actually serve display creative on a publisher's website at a scalable cost in order to drive efficiencies for your brand. We also have YouTube, so if you wanted to serve a video message as they're going through their journey as well, there's another touch point. So those are kind of the 3 places where Google could help you be there at every step of the way of your consumer's journey. And this isn't just on mobile. This is on mobile, this is on desktop, tablet, however you want to effectively target your consumer. So typically when thinking about being there and focusing on the user, there's 4 moments that you want to focus on. You want to focus on, I want to know. So I want to know more about this particular brand. I want to go. So I want to go do something. I want to go, I want to do similar type of things. And then the final piece is I want to buy, or I want to take action. So those are the 4 personas you as a business owner should put your head in when thinking through what your ads with Google will look like and how they come across to your ideal user. The final piece is be valuable. So in terms of based upon like what an ad is saying, you want to answer a specific question that user is either searching for or wanting to learn more about. So having a combination of both search ads as well as display ads as well as video ads allows you to provide valuable information and give a unique, compelling experience with the right message wherever a potential consumer is across the web, and whether it be across channel or across device, that helps you accomplish that. So think about what sort of values you want to convey as a business to consumers considering working with you. So some general tips for your website when also thinking about being valuable is build content for real needs. So don't build content that's not going to be something that your brand or your company can solve for. You want to connect online to the real world. So if you have a physical location or a storefront, you want to convey ways in which you guys could work to, or ways in which online information can help in the real world. And then the final piece is you want to optimize to mobile. So you want to make sure that your website is mobile friendly. From a search perspective, 70% of searches on Google now actually happen on a mobile device. 15% of those searches are new on a daily basis. So it's really, really important that you have a website that looks good and feels good on mobile. So with that, I'll transition to being quick. And where being quick is most important is if someone searches for you, they are in an intent-based mode. So you need to be able to automatically act on intent. So earlier I talked about eliminate any unnecessary steps that hinders the buying process or hinders versionable action. The worst possible thing you can do that will hinder that is having a slow website. So if we go to the next slide, the average load time for a mobile site is 19 seconds over a 3G connection. Think of what you could do in 19 seconds. I started presenting this slide probably 5 seconds ago, right? Like I'm just talking, ambling on. There's no need for me to continue talking on this slide. If we go to the next slide, what has happened is basically we've moved on. We've decided, okay, this company's website is too slow. They're not providing me with the information that I need. They're not acting on my intent. They might not care or consider me as a potential customer because they don't even have a website that's fast enough to load in a time in which I expect it to load. So if there's one key takeaway that you all get from this webinar today is you need to test your website. Visit testmysite.thinkwithgoogle. And we as Google believe so strongly in terms of having fast mobile sites that we'll actually give you a couple of tips and tricks on things that you could do to make your mobile site much more friendly and faster. So that being said, I'll turn things over to Jim. He'll dive a little bit deeper into some paid search fundamentals, and you'll hear from me a little bit later on.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Great tips there. The site speed definitely resonates with me living here in rural America. We don't have great cell phone connections. So any website that takes longer than 10 seconds, I'm totally done with. I'm moving on to the next. Great information. What I want to do is just kind of take a quick break here and go over some paid search fundamentals. I know that we've got a lot of people here on the webinar. I'm sure some of you have got experience using AdWords or Google Ads in the past. Maybe some of you don't. So I'm going to just do a quick 101 session with you here and just make sure that we level set and make sure that we all know what we're talking about. you have ever been to google.com, which I hope is all of you, anytime you type in any kind of search query, you'll see on the left-hand side, we typed in Nike shoes, and on the right-hand side, we typed in Pampers diapers, size 4. You'll see that the page is laid out with certain sections, and I want to kind of uncover a little bit of that. So when you type in your query, you've got, depending on the query you type in, you'll likely have some sort of shopping ads up at the top, which are a paid service that Google Ads offers. Below that, you'll have text ads, which again is a paid service that Google offers. And then below that, on the desktop, you have your organic results. So if you've been running SEO campaigns to get your website to show up on the search engine results page organically, you're going to be down there in that red section towards the bottom. One thing I wanted to point out was, take a look over at the mobile version. There are no organic listings there. Everything that's on that page until you start scrolling is all a paid service, and that's not going away. So you can see that there's shopping ads up at the top, and then you can see the very first text ad from Nike.com is second. And so unless you're using some sort of paid advertisement, your mobile users will likely never see you until they start scrolling. So I just wanted to highlight that. A lot of people approach us and say, hey, we already rank really well organically, X percentage of our traffic is from organic means. Why would we want to pay for ads when we're already ranking organically? The reason is, first off, going back to what Eric mentioned in terms of being demanding and being impatient, customers want to find you immediately. When they type in a specific product or service that you carry, or even your brand, they want to make sure that you are right there on the page so that they can click over to your website and conduct their business or conduct their research. So having both paid and organic means that you give them an opportunity to do that. You can always show up for branded searches or even non-branded searches at the top of the screen consistently. Paid search allows you to control your message in the ad and your landing page. So we control where we send people to after they click on your advertisement. And that allows us to do some great split testing to determine what the market is responding to best. We split test both your ad copy as well as your landing page. We're bid adjusting on different keywords and things like that. So we're able to really gain some insights and some learnings by running paid campaigns versus organic, where Google really controls your message. They scrape or index your web pages that are on your website, and that's what shows up in the organic section of Google. You have zero control over what they add or do not add in them. As you can see from the mobile example that I have, having paid search run alongside your organic listings means that you control more of that real estate on that search engine results page. Eric can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think something like 75 to 80% of people don't go to page 2 on Google. So unless you're showing up on page 1 and one of those top 10 organic listings, people are never going to go to page 2 to come find you, much less page 3 or beyond. So having a paid listing on Google means that you control more of that page 1 real estate, both organically and paid. Paid plus organic has been proven to drive more traffic, and I'll show you a little bit about what that means on the next slide. But what we've seen with our clients in the past is if you have a paid ad that rides alongside an organic listing, it builds more of a trusting, what am I trying to say, a trusting relationship with people who are searching for you. If you have multiple listings on that first page, people are more apt to trust and therefore click over and visit your website. Paid plus organic, in the same kind of vein here, improves your brand health metrics. So things like brand awareness, brand favorability, all of those tend to go up when you have multiple listings on that first page on Google. So we've seen some of that with our client campaigns as well. And then paid search influences purchase. If people are actively looking to buy something, subconsciously people will see that an advertisement is an open door for business. People are clicking on that looking to buy, and if you are advertising for that, where they don't have to go and hunt through organic listings, they know that their wallets are open, they're ready to go, let's get this purchase done. And then paid search means you have the capability to custom tailor messaging and results based on your audience. So within the Google Ads umbrella, we can really define who our audiences are and communicate with them on a level that's relevant to them. So for instance, we can run search remarketing ads. So if someone has been to your website and either converted or not converted, we can really give them a message that resonates with them on why they need to come back and finish that conversion, or why they need to come back and convert with you again rather than shopping a competitor. So it really allows us to fine tune our messaging across different audiences, which is great. So paid plus organic. This is a great slide here. Exposure to paid and organic results almost doubled the likelihood that someone would click over and visit a brand's website. So when you're running organic search only and you're showing up on the first page somewhere, there's a 42% chance that someone's going to click over and visit your website organically. If you're using paid search, there's a 53% chance that that person's going to click on one of your advertisements and visit you. But when you're running them together, there's a 95% chance that people are going to click over and come and visit your site. So that's pretty impactful if you're trying to make sure that you're either growing or sustaining your market share, or if you're in a really competitive area. So we always recommend running paid, even though we have clients that rank very well organically. We've had clients come to us and say, hey, we've tried AdWords before, it didn't really work for us. And what we really like to do is do an in-depth audit or analysis on their account and take a look at their different keyword match types that they have. Keyword match types are really where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, in paid search advertising. There's 4 different types of match types, and we use them to our capability and leverage those different match types to make sure that we're not only targeting the people who we need to target, but also excluding people that in searches that were either not relevant for or poor converters for us. So broad is kind of the very basic. Broad has the greatest amount of coverage. Anyone who types in a keyword in any particular order, if it's a broad match, it will trigger an ad impression for you, which means your ad will show up on Google. Phrase match means that we can narrow it down, and if there are multiple words within your target keyword, phrase match will allow us to signify that they have to come in a specific order and that those specific words need to be included in the search query. So, if you are selling shoes, for instance, your phrase match might be men's shoes. And so if someone types in men's shoes size 11 or men's basketball shoes, a phrase match would likely trigger that ad, while it would exclude other types of different queries. And then exact match means that you specifically give the words in the specific order that you want Google to trigger your ad on. And that's really effective for driving those conversions. That's also really effective for campaigns that are mature, where we've seen over months and months, and if not years, exactly what keywords drive conversions for you. And so we're able to really fine tune. These are exactly the exact keywords that we want to trigger our ads for to target our audience. And then last, and this is probably the most important one, are negative keywords. Negative keywords are a way for us to communicate with Google when we do not want our ads to be triggered. And that is a great way to exclude searches and audiences and search queries from even triggering our ads, so that you don't get a click that's accidental or not relevant or is just going to waste your money. So building out comprehensive negative keyword lists for our clients is one of the first things that we do before we launch campaigns. This really helps you from wasting ad spend, honestly. That is the best way to do that. We also have clients that have contacted us and say, hey, listen, I'm a small shop, we're small potatoes. There's no way that we can compete with the 900-pound gorilla that's in our market. They have way more money than us. They have way more resources. They have a larger team. How can we compete with that 900-pound gorilla that we're up against? And the answer that Google came up with years ago is something called ad rank. You can see down there that quote, ads should be placed based on their relevance, not just how much the advertiser is willing to pay. And essentially, Google made that decision because Google, at its very core, is a relevance engine. If you went to Google and typed in a search query and Google gave you results that weren't relevant to you, you would never show up to Google anymore. You would go off to Bing, you would go to Yahoo, you would go to other search engines, but you would not use Google because the results that they gave you just weren't relevant to you. And so Google understood that and realized that everything has to be focused on relevance. And so they built a metric called quality score that essentially measures the relevance between your target keywords, the copy that's in your ad, and the copy that's on your landing page. And when you have synergy between all three of those different components, your quality score goes up. Quality score is a score between 0 and 10 that Google generates on demand in real time. And so they take that quality score, and I'll show you here how it kind of works. If someone goes to Google and they type in baseball gloves, you'll see that there's 2 paid ads up at the top. And basically what happens is Google determines the quality score for that particular advertiser, multiplies it by their maximum cost per click bid, because this is an auction system, so everyone's bidding on different keywords and different placements. And then that equals the ad rank score. You can see that they had a quality score of 2, which is very low. They had a max bid of $2. And they had, if you multiply those together, they have an ad rank of 4. Now, if you take a look at the competition, they have a very relevant ad. You can see that, baseball gloves is in the description of the ad, as well as in the headline where it's bolded. They've got baseball in the URL itself. So this is maybe a very high quality ad. It scored a 6, but they're only bidding $1. So they're bidding 50% less as their competitor, but they have an ad rank of 6. And so what Google says is, hey, we're going to put the 6 on top because it's more relevant. So now you, as the small guy who's only bidding $1, is now out placing your competition who's bidding $2. And that's really important. There's nobody, and there's no size business that I can think of that can't compete with the big guys using paid search because of this ad rank system. We've talked a lot today about conversions. Conversions is really how we track the return on your investment and the effectiveness of our online campaigns. A conversion is basically any action that you want a visitor to take. That could be picking up a phone and calling you. That could be completing a purchase on your website. That could be filling out a contact submission form. Anything that you want them to do, downloading a white paper, watching a video. Whatever's important to you, whatever your business goals are, we can typically track with conversion tracking. And you can see here that it allows us to generate reports based on your return on ad spend, your return on investment. Allows us to optimize your campaign to make sure that you're getting more and more of these conversions at a cheaper and cheaper cost. And then most importantly, Google has a very expansive machine learning process that allows us to implement smart bidding on your campaigns so that Google's machines are basically are optimizing the campaigns and the bidding for you to really focus on those conversions and business goals that you have. So that's, I can't underline that enough. There's a lot of different marketing channels that are out there, but very few of them are using machine learning to the degree that Google is to really hone in on exactly what you're trying to accomplish, given your budget. With that, that was kind of the paid search, but there are lots of other tactics that fall underneath the Google Ads umbrella. And so I'm going to pass the controls over to Eric here, and he's going to talk about opportunities that Google has outside of paid search.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jim. All the information that you conveyed about paid search, super relevant, super useful. And I think one thing that really stands out to me is one of the main reasons why I love Google is the quality score component, right? So you don't necessarily have to, from a budgetary standpoint, companies of all shapes and sizes can be effective utilizing Google search. And now I'll dive into a little bit more on opportunities outside of paid search. So as I've talked about today, like a consumer journey, especially today, are becoming more complex, and they're made up of multiple intent-rich moments. From a Google perspective, though, we have over 7 different platforms that have over 1 billion users each. So we, out of any sort of advertising solution, have the most possible touch points with which we could reach your customers. And then we leverage that data and that information to serve the most relevant ads at the most relevant place and time. So some examples here are YouTube, Google Maps, Google Search, the Android Play Store, and Gmail. And so here you kind of see like, the path to conversion and the purchase cycle. And some of these other mountains are going to be other sort of, advertising channels that you might be considering, or other areas in which you're receiving digital messaging. So the first thing that I think is super, super potent, at least from a lower funnel perspective, that I would highly recommend anyone who's advertising on Google utilize, is what's called remarketing lists for search ads. So what we could do is we could put a pixel on your website if a user has visited your website and then searches for either your brand, for a competitor, or your product category, or something that's relevant to your business. We could actually get more aggressive with the bid because we believe, hey, they've already come to your website, and the average consumer consults 2 to 4 pieces of information before they make a purchase decision. This is a great way to stay top of mind. It's very similar to remarketing on display, but instead of utilizing banners, it's going to be on search. Really, really great lower funnel tactic that is technically outside of just straight Google search.
One thing that I would mention on that, Eric, is we've seen success with this with our clients when we do remarketing for search for previous clients. So anyone who's come to our clients' websites and converted, purchased or checked out or submitted a lead form or whatever, and then 90 days or 180 days or 360 days or 540 days later, if they go back and search, we know that that person's ripe for another conversion. And so we can bid adjust those audiences up and get those people to come back and convert with our clients again versus going to the competition, because they already have an existing relationship with us.
Awesome. So I alluded to this earlier, but the Google Display Network is very, very vital. So Google has relationships with 95% of publishers on the internet. So if you're on a website like ESPN.com or CNN.com, it's more likely than not that the actual banner ad or the display ad that you're seeing is actually being served through Google's display network. So what we want to do is we want to be able to reach users based upon whatever website they're at. And then obviously inventory on certain websites are more expensive than other ones. So we as a company utilize machine learning and automation to determine what websites your message would reach based upon your budget from the most cost efficient way in order to generate a conversion. And that is done across the Google Display Network. So 79% of time online is spent outside of searching for things or outside of your email inbox. And 21% of time online is actually spent like searching for information. So the 80% of time that people are browsing on the web is a great way to interact with them. The best way in which I could, translate this is if you're doing any sort of traditional mailers or any sort of billboard advertising, advertising on the Google Display Network is a great way to do that in a cost-efficient manner, because you can only pay on a cost per click basis versus a cost per impression basis. So you actually know there was a result that was taken as a result of your ad being seen. Display remarketing, we talked about remarketing earlier, but again, someone visits your website. I talked a lot earlier today in the presentation about relevance and personalization. So there should be multiple different types of remarketing banners that you leverage based upon where a user visits you and what portion of their website that they visit you at, so that you could have relevant messaging that makes sense in accordance with the consumer's journey and how they found out about your brand in the past. The final piece of something that I wanted to highlight is YouTube. So YouTube is actually the second largest search engine in the world. Tons of watch time. I'm sure you all have spent time on YouTube. The YouTube ad format is great. It's called TrueView. And the reason in which we call it TrueView is you actually only pay if a user watches 30 seconds of your video ad. So if a person skips the ad anywhere between the first 5 seconds, you're forced to watch. But if anyone skips your ad after 5 to 29 seconds, you actually don't get charged for that view. So if you're running TV, again, you're paying on a cost per impression basis. Or on YouTube, you're actually paying for engaged views. And the beauty of advertising on YouTube is you could actually track and see when users drop off your video or when they disengage with the content. So then that way it can help inform your creative decisions moving forward. So maybe you notice at 20 seconds, the majority of users tend to drop off. Maybe there's something in your messaging that could be improved, or maybe there's something in the imagery of the video that could be improved, or something that the users don't necessarily like. And then that could be utilized to inform your strategy moving forward. I work with a lot of clients that utilize YouTube before they advertise on TV, because what will happen is it'll provide information about what will resonate well with the TV audience. The benefit too is you can immediately click through a YouTube video and go to the website for your business, or provide information. We're even working on new ad formats where you could actually fill out like a lead form, or you could actually buy something immediately as a result of seeing a YouTube video. So a lot of really, really cool stuff that we're doing from a video perspective on Google. And if you aren't currently utilizing any sort of video ads or creating video assets, highly recommend that you start thinking about that.
Yeah, one thing that I would add here is just the cost effectiveness that we've seen with TrueView. We are typically getting between 2 and 8 cents per view. And again, going back to what Eric said, that means that someone has gone through the full 5-second skippable period, and then they've watched at least 29 seconds of your video or taken action on that for you to be charged. This is the diamond in the rough right now. People are looking for ways to spread reach and spread brand awareness. TrueView is by far and away the most cost-effective tactic that we've seen at the top of the sales funnel to get that done. There's nothing else that compares with that. So yeah, I can't emphasize the utilizing TrueView for that full funnel approach enough. This is incredible.
And the final piece is Gmail ads. So I'm sure all of you that utilize Gmail as your primary inbox noticed about 3 years ago, we made a massive change to our interface, in which we have 3 different tabs. So we have the standard tab, where it's the majority of the messages that are from users or brands or companies that you interact with a lot. The other tab is social, to get social notifications. And then the other tab is promotions. So if you are a brand or a business that wants to have, that does a lot of online promotion, or you do a lot of email marketing, a great way to capitalize on that is through Gmail ads at the top of that promotions tab. So you'll see 2 paid ads at the top of that tab. And then if you click one of those ads, there's very, very cool full screen takeovers that you as a business could utilize. So on the right-hand side, there's 2 different examples of actual Gmail ads that are active and running today that I have been targeted with. And this is great for companies or brands that are looking to have an immersive full screen experience with minimal cost associated with it, to provide rich information about a product or service, or even a special promotion that they're running at a given point in time. So I have one more slide that I just want to talk about, and it's about working with a Google Premier partner. So through Clearmind's partnership with XtraPay, it allows them to have deep interaction with the Google team to provide full transparency. This isn't something that I do every day. I typically maybe do 1 or 2 of these webinars per month, and they're geared towards agencies that Google is placing a big bet on in their future, and agencies that Google believes are going to drive the best business results for their customers. So a premier partner badge is composed of 3 different things. One, there's an agency health score. So we look at all of the accounts an agency is managing and have kind of a checklist for best practices to see how they're adhering to best practices. And then we categorize them into various different buckets by score. And Google Premier Partners have the upper echelon of that score. The second thing that we look at is we look at overall revenue under management. So how much money are they managing in terms of Google ad spend? And is that amount of spend growing with Google? Because obviously if it's declining, right, clients aren't happy. So we want to make sure that that's increasing. And we've seen that from XtraPay a lot lately. And then the final piece is we want to ensure that the agency is taking the time to stay up to date on Google's products. So there's a pretty rigorous training and curriculum that goes into them being able to be a premier partner that Jim and the rest of his team handles on a quarterly basis. So with that being said, I'll pass things back over to Jim.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, Eric. So what does that all mean for you? Obviously, we've got, Clear Minds has got a team dedicated here at Xtropy and also at Google to ensure that you're getting the best possible performance out of your campaigns. It also means that we've got access to cutting edge products. Google is always on a monthly basis sending out new beta products that we as a premier partner have access to and are allowed to test with our different client accounts. And so we're able to kind of be on the cutting edge and on the forefront of what's going on in ad tech, what's going on search, display, email, video, etc., and allow us to really run some good experiments with our clients and get better results for you. And then obviously growth. It's in everyone's best interest to help grow your business from Google's side all the way down to your side. We're obviously looking to create long-standing, deep relationships with all of our clients, and we wouldn't do that if we didn't have the growth aspect. Just a little bit of insight into the dedicated team that we have over at Google. Divya, Kelly, Eric are kind of the three people that we connect with based on what the client's needs are. They help us out with building out strategy. They help us out with campaign optimization. They help us out with getting access to betas that we can try out new tactics. These guys are awesome. And then also doing webinars like this. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. So what we'd like
Sorry, it's on mute. Yeah, happy to do it.
So what we'd like to do now is go into a quick Q&A session. If anybody has any questions about anything Google related, honestly, or anything that we covered today, you can click on the Q&A button on your screen and we'll collect all those. And Patty, if you can go through and ask away, let us know what kind of questions you had and we'll do the best to answer them.
Okay, we've got a few questions. The first one is, how do I know what to budget for Google Ads?
Great question. So what we do, and we have access to tools on Google that allow us to see historical and even forecasted search demand, if we're talking about a search campaign. And then we also have access to a tool called the Display Planner, which we can plug in our different audience types and our geographic targets, and it will tell us what type of placement inventory we have on the Google Display Network and how much that inventory costs on a cost per click basis. So we run all the math and come up with some numbers, and then we put together some budget projections on, hey, here's what we think you should be spending. And if you spend this amount, then we think that you'll have this amount of impression share, or the total number of impressions in the universe that are related to your audience. And then how many of those impressions you'll get for your brand. So yeah, we've got tools that we have access to on Google that help us compile what those numbers would look like, and then we can make budget recommendations for you.
Yeah, and then once we have campaigns that have been running for a little bit of time, we could further tweak those budget recommendations around profitability. So that's why it's super important when we talked about establishing goals and having conversionable events that could happen on your website. We could assign a value to your business of what a conversion is worth, and then do back-end math and understand how much we paid for a user to come to the website, leverage the cost of goods sold, or maybe the cost to you guys from a business perspective of what it costs to acquire that user in addition to the marketing and advertising costs, and then understand the profit or the revenue that comes into you as a result of it. And so then we think from an incremental perspective of what could we be doing to generate more profit for your business. And that's kind of once we're up and running with your campaigns. So that's kind of the way in which I think through things after kind of Jim's initial planning approach, which I completely agree with.
Okay, we've got another one. Can you tell if my competitors are using Google Ads?
Yes, I love this question. So everybody always asks about this. There is, Google Ads offers something called Auction Insights. And what that allows us to see is not only where on the spectrum your ads typically show up, but who else is competing against you. And it actually gives you their domain name. So we'll get to see all the competitors that are out there that are competing against you, where their ads show up in relation to yours, and things like that. So yeah, we've got access to some competitive analysis tools. And then using a third-party tool that is outside of Google's realm, we can actually begin to estimate what type of ad spend your competitors have. So we can kind of do a deep dive on what they're doing, where we need to be, how often they're beating us in an ad auction, and how frequently we show up on top.
Yep. And also through Jim's relationship with me, I obviously have access to understand kind of the budgets that competitors are spending for clients that are new to Google and new to kind of the digital landscape. One thing that's super helpful is if you're interested in working with XtraP on kind of a search campaign, you could tell Jim, hey, here's whom I would consider to be like my 5 to 10 closest competitors. And what I could do is I could aggregate that data and give you guys like an average. Hey, on average, across these 5 competitors, the average spend is $3,000. However, the range of there's one competitor that spends $1,000, there's one that spends $5,000, and then kind of give some insights on that. So in addition to kind of the high level digital education piece, I also like to help out specifically on digital education for new accounts for Jim. So more than happy to do that as well.
Great, thank you.
Here's one we get a lot. How long do I have to commit to online advertising before seeing results?
Yeah, solid question. What we typically tell clients is that these aren't magic beans. Paid search doesn't provide results immediately a lot of the time. Sometimes it does. What we like to say is we like to have a few months to sort out any of the hiccups, make sure that everything's running smoothly, start building up some consistency. So you may see results the first day, but we like to ask our clients to, hey, give us 3, 4, 5, 6 months so that we can really like refine everything, get a solid system down, eliminate any poor quality clicks, make sure that we're producing results. But yeah, I mean, we have definitely launched results. In fact, we launched a campaign on Tuesday, and we had results coming in within the hour. So it could be as soon as an hour, or it could be several months. Just it depends.
Yeah, and I think one of the ways in which I would evaluate an agency, if I'm making the commitment to be working with an agency, I would look at progress. So the way in which you could look at it is, through, what's the percentage of increase in terms of clicks that are coming to my website? What's the increase in terms of people that are actually searching for my brand if I'm running YouTube videos or display ads, right? What's the overall, so it's on like a percentage basis in which you should make a judgment call. But ultimately, after you've been working with an agency for an extended period of time, it should just be on overall profitability in terms of like how you should evaluate whether or not this is being successful or not for you.
Any more
All
questions?
right. We've got one more. Can we just do Google Ads, or do we need to do SEO also?
Good question. It sort of depends on your business. It also depends on your goals. If you have a business that is perhaps launching a new to market product, something that doesn't have existing demand, paid search would make the most amount of sense because people don't know that they need your product or service yet. If you are selling a product or service that's really well known, where there's already existing demand for it, and you're able to optimize your website for that particular demand, SEO and paid search would make the most sense. So it sort of depends. And it depends on your patience. SEO takes a lot longer to generate your results than paid search does. And it depends on your budget. SEO can be just as expensive, if not more expensive than paid search. And so if you have the resources to do both, you can. If you only have resources to do one, again, it kind of goes back to your business goals and objectives.
Okay, that's it.
Great. Awesome. Well, I know that ClearMind had an offer that they wanted to announce to all of the attendees here. So Sarah and Lori, did you want to run through that?
Yeah, we just wanted to really thank everyone who attended the webinar today. We're so excited that we had this opportunity to share our resources with you guys, especially our partnership with XtraP. And again, having Eric on this call from Google is just huge for us and for all of you to get that direct insight. So for anyone attending this call, we want to just offer a complimentary client strategy to you, which you can book directly through Sarah and I with the contact information at the bottom of the slide so that you be dealing directly with us. And then we can set up a call where we'd be really specific to your particular business, your clientele, your industry, to dig a little deeper into possibly setting a budget and coming up with a search marketing plan specifically for you guys. So we just are so happy that we could offer this service to you, and thank you so much for attending.
Thanks for having us, guys.
And yeah, I want to say thank you, Lori and Sarah. Really appreciate you having us. Really excited to kind of help some of your clients grow with Google, and I'm sure I'll be interacting with a lot of you soon.
Appreciate it so much, guys. Thanks so much for having us.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.